and keep your comments to 3 minutes or so.
Minutes or so?
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's always a little latitude.
Yeah. All right. Hello, my name is Randy Shea, 50 West Main Street, Victor, New York. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight. I've done my best to condense the 30 minutes of what I have to say into the 3 minutes allowed in accordance with your rules. In August of 2022, I made a 20-minute YouTube video entitled, "Our Town of Victor, New York Representatives Planning Victor Insulators Incorporated Out of Existence." Unless there is something that I am unaware of, history may very well be recorded as the answer is yes. 3 minutes of time is not enough for me to explain my reasoning. The video is still available to the public for anyone who wants to watch it and or respond to it. Allowing the abandonment and removal of the rail spur that services Victor Insulators Incorporated would be a gigantic mistake for the town, for the county, for our nation actually. I have a bunch of different reasons that would be bad, and some of you I know have actually talked with IRA about the reasoning why the trucking option is not good, especially as they continue to ramp up their business right now. But the main thing is that it's jobs, jobs, jobs. I know some politicians like to say it 3 times so it gets through. Green jobs, union jobs, local jobs. If Victor Insulator is put out of business, because IRA has come before this board twice and said that it would be a severe adverse impact, possibly putting them out of business within 5 years. That would hurt jobs. That's one reason. Another is living history. Now, I love the fact that we have a lot of historians and historic things about Victor that we celebrate, but living history is that which is still here. If there was one thing that makes Victor, New York unique, not just in this nation, but perhaps the entire world, is it is the epicenter of where the wet porcelain insulator was first designed and manufactured by Fred Locke back in the 1800s. That's significant. Maybe you think of insulators as being something not that important, but think of the Industrial Revolution without insulators. Think about not having an electric grid, not having a communications grid. That is huge. Now, it looks like a rundown industry. It's not got as much pizzazz and shiny stuff as some of the new businesses coming into town, but they've been taxpayers since way back then. So the fact that this could possibly adversely impact them, I think is something that it should be seriously considered. And whether you know it or not, majority of your constituents don't even know that the possibility exists, and they should. Whether people decide that the rail should be taken up or not, the implications of it should be known prior to the decision. Now, you might say it's not in our hands, it's up to the Surface Transportation Board, it's up to the other guys, but the planning that was involved in the last couple of years showed that it even showed up in the plan that the road was put in place and the rails were torn up. I won't go too far into that because I don't have much time, but so hopefully you are aware of the Ontario County Central Railroad Corporation has filed a notice of intent to partially terminate abandoned service that connects the spur servicing Victor Insulator Incorporated. Another thing I would note is if you look at what they're talking about as far as taking out the track or abandoning it, it actually makes a way for a bypass, to bypass the village altogether with a road, maybe down the road, but basically by abandoning the section all the way up to 332, which is part of what they're proposing, that to me should alarm people, because I don't think that should happen either. The Surface Transportation is open to receiving public comments pertaining to this filing by March 24th, 2023. The information on it is here. If you go to friendsoftherailroad.org, you will see a new page that we created, which basically, as of right now, has a link to the document that was filed. You will find it under the page title, Proposed Railroad Abandonment Information. The document itself, I never know when I'm going to get nervous when I'm talking. The document itself is a notice of intent to partially terminate abandoned services. It shows a map of everything. It gives you all the legal mumbo-jumbo. But it's from the Ontario Central Railroad Corporation, and it's been sent to now the way it works, my understanding is that the Surface Transportation Board may not decide to allow the abandonment. It's going to come down to whether people speak up, and I'm hoping that basically there's good news. There's still time for you to be on the right side of history. If my question about whether or not the town board representatives are planning Victor Insulator out of existence is something that would lead you to say, no, we definitely don't want that, the time to speak up about it, not just to the Surface Transportation Board, but to your constituents and to the general public, is now. There are other reasons. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, most of you know that. I'm also a conservative. I'm also lean to the idea that the government shouldn't be funding everything. Well, right now there's an infrastructure bill that's been passed, and money's going to be spent somewhere. And just recently there's been news about how they're going to be redoing all the railroads around here. So there's money available to fix the tracks. Most of them are more high-speed rails, but this is a low-speed rail here that could be done. So don't tell me there isn't money. There isn't the possibility that we could come up with the money without having to raise taxes locally for the purpose of keeping the rails. National defense. All right. I brought up the grid earlier, right? Think about this. Now, if it is a homeland security issue, which I'm not really buying into, but if the climate change thing is a homeland security issue, then don't you think that if we're going to double the grid, we're going to need more insulators? Do you know that this insulator plant right here is one of the last two in the United States of America, I think in North America altogether? The other one is Lap Insulator, and they don't produce the quality and types of insulators that are produced right here in Victor. You think that that's not an important issue? If we run into a situation with, for instance, China or anybody else that would then be supplying us because we wouldn't have a place that's doing it anymore if they go out of business, or even if they just get cut back because they can't compete price-wise anymore. That won't be good for us. So as a conservative, as a Republican, as somebody who believes that the government does have a role in national defense, I absolutely believe that some of the money should go that's from the infrastructure towards fixing the rail. And I hope you agree. Whatever you decide, whatever you believe, whether you believe the rail should be taken out or you shouldn't, whatever your position is, I hope you be more public about it, because most people don't even know this is about to happen. And just for the record, this has nothing to do with the rail going to 251. Okay, that may be something that should be done to help out with taking care of traffic. This has to do with what doesn't really make sense going that way for more than one reason. The whole idea of possibly connecting up to that traffic circle at the lower end of that traffic circle, that was in the plan originally, made no sense to take the road out to connect to there, because you already know what it's like to go through that traffic circle. And that was actually in the quote-unquote plan or report or whatever. So my wife said, be respectful. I am being respectful. I realized, she brought something up. Up until about 2 years ago, I didn't know anything about Victor Insulator. I was ignorant of it, okay? So hopefully, if you haven't done it already, you consider what I've had to say. You do some research and think about what I said, and take a public position, and put in your opinion to the Surface Transportation Board. And I'm speaking to everybody here. I'm hoping this will get out to the county level, all state legislators, because I don't have time to go to all these meetings. I've got to get going on some things I have to get done for myself. So thank you very much for your time, and have a great night.
Thank you, Randy.
Good evening. My name is Diane Robbins, 644 Championship Drive in Victor, and I'm also here in support of Victor Insulators. I am still puzzled by what seems to me jumping ahead by the town. I mean, as Randy said, this is all up to the Surface Transportation Board, and if they rule the stuff stays, it stays. There's nothing that can be done about it. But as far as public support, I have here copies of a letter that I wrote to Secretary Buttigieg, the Department of Transportation, and in a very nice return letter, I was informed something I didn't know, as apparently many members of Congress didn't know, is that the Surface Transportation Board is an independent agency, not part of the Department of Transportation, and they were going to forward my letter on to them. I won't take up your time reading it all. I have copies, if with your permission, I would like to hand out to you, but I do want to mention, Randy said he's a Republican and conservative, I'm Democrat and liberal, but we're on the same page on some of this. One of the sentences in my letter, and in my mind, this is also a national security issue. Do we really want to depend on China for insulators for our electrical grid? I wouldn't think so. So if I may?
Very much.
Yep.
Thank you. Diane, can I get a copy for Supervisor Marin and Councilman Kohovic as well? Thanks. Thank you.